Okay, I'm sitting here going back through my thoughts and going back to that heart swirl sexual love connection thing that happened um, with, Joe and everything. I'm sitting here and I can remember, like I said before, we used to be self-employed. I was married and had 3 kids at the time when all this was going on, when I lived in Kingwood. And I was married for about 20 years, I guess, until my divorce became final on October 24th, 2004. Anyways, well, the reason my husband divorced me was because, like I mentioned before, after that heart swirl thing happened, and I felt the energies inside my body, like a chemical reaction sort of thing, energies going on between me and Phil and Joe inside my body. I went mentally ill, and I had to go to a mental hospital. Now, my husband at the time ended up divorcing me because I went mentally ill. And the fact of the matter is, at the time when all the heart swirl thing happened, I kept it a secret. I kept it a secret for 18 years. Nobody knew in my family. Nobody knew what had happened. Why I kept it a secret, looking back, why I kept it a secret, I don't know. I for the life of me, I do not know why I kept it hidden. Even through everything, all the my life, after it happened, and me going mentally ill, losing my mind because of it. Looking back, I realize now it was something spiritual. And it was a spiritual awakening, I guess, what was starting to occur back then. And, pardon me, God, it was the worst time in my whole life. My kids were my life. My family was my life. I was, at the time, even now looking back, I was pretty well put together, to be honest. I had my shit together. We had a home we were buying, we were self-employed. We had money in the bank. My kids never wanted for anything. Everything was taken care of. We were doing really, really well. And I was happy. Life was really, really good. And anyways, until after that heart swirl thing happened and I lost control of my mind and had to go to a mental hospital, I went to a mental hospital twice. And after that second time, my husband at the time filed for divorce afterwards. But I still kept it hidden. I never told anyone. I did try, at the time when I went to the mental hospital in Houston, I did it then, at the time, try and talk about what occurred, but being that my mental capacity and the mental state of my mind at the time, it was hard, I was trying to deal with the facts and trying to cope and everything, and it was just a really, really difficult time in my life. But yeah, my husband filed for divorce because of what happened. Although he didn't know the truth of why it happened, what occurred to cause my mental illness. He was unaware of that because I never told him. I couldn't talk about it. And, yeah. I kept it hidden from my family. And, anyways, because my kids were my life. My kids were my entire life. But anyways, I had 3, and my youngest, Dylan, was 10 years old back in 2001. He was 10 years old, and my daughter must have been 12, and my oldest son must have been 14. And I tried my best. I tried my best to not lose control of my mind, you know. I was really trying, you know. And anyways, I acted out because I didn't have control. I acted out in bizarre ways and strange ways, in a mental illness way. And anyways, my marriage ended up falling apart, and I lost. In the divorce, I got the house, but see, I never worked. I met my husband when I was, 15? I was working at a Dairy Queen in Humble, Texas, and he had come in there one day. Anyways, that's how I met. I knew my husband when I was 15. We were married for 20 years. The divorce happened October 24th. Of 2004, but when all this was going on back in 2001, because it took a year and a half for my divorce to get final, but I never worked outside. When I met my husband, I never worked. I never had a job. Eventually, you know, I started our business, our construction business we had. And I started that, you know, I started it off, and we ended up, you know, over the years through doing, you know, I was taking care of the taxes and the business aspect, you know, on the phone, and taking care of all the business aspects, and he took care of the physical labor, you know. So we had a thing going on. Anyways, yeah, my kids were my life, and I was pretty proud of myself. You know, I had my shit together, like I was saying, but until this happened. But I couldn't support. I couldn't support my family when he was divorcing me. I had the house, but I had no job. I had no job experience outside of my self-employment, you know. And I never held a job. My family and working from home, that was my life. And I can remember sitting at my kitchen table, and my ex-husband, you know, was there at the time, and he said, you know, you better get a job. And I thought, oh my God, you know, I raised my kids all this time, and, you know, I can't remember how old was I? I must have been like 33, from 15 to 33, 34, 35. I think my divorce became final when I was 36. It took a year and a half for that to happen. So I must have been 33, 34 years old. And I had never worked outside the home. And I was terrified. You know, I was really terrified. And I did end up eventually getting a job at Walmart. I worked in the automotive department. And after this, the heart swirl thing, and being I was diagnosed, what they diagnosed me with was bipolar and schizophrenia. Now, I know goddamn well that's not what I had. Because I've asked doctors, and those mental illnesses are inherited usually. Now, my mom, which makes this even more difficult, is the fact that my mom has been diagnosed as being bipolar, and she agrees with that diagnosis, evidently. But I know that I'm not bipolar. I know I'm not schizophrenic. I know that I was perfectly fine up until that heart swirl and then the chemical reaction of the three, me, Joe, and Phil, inside my body, which is the reason why I went mentally ill afterwards. That is what happened. And I've been fighting it my entire life, since all of this has occurred, because I know what happened to me. And anyways, I wasn't right. I know I wasn't in my right mind and my normal self back then. But I tried my best to behave, and I tried to control, and they ended up putting me on medications and stuff like that. And I did my best I honestly did my best at the time. Well, I've always done my best, so, yeah, I ended up getting the house, but I didn't get to keep it long. I think he paid the rent maybe a month or two, and then he stopped completely. When he went for the divorce, he went straight to the bank. He cut off the business account, my checking account, our savings account. He cut off all access to money for me. So I was left with a minimum wage Walmart job that I couldn't support myself. And at the divorce, I got $5,000 and the house. And shortly after, they repoed the house. And there was nowhere for the kids to go except for to him. So he got all the money. He got the kids. He ended up being able to buy a new home. And I was left with nothing. Honest to God, I was left with nothing. And I ended up with the $5,000. I went and got an apartment, which was like $735 a month. And I was living in Humboldt Township Apartments. Now, all I had was the $5,000 to get me into the apartment, and I was struggling, with what had happened and working at Walmart, and I started drinking a lot. I started drinking a lot to cope, and so the kids came over a couple of times at the apartment, but it just got to where I was going to end up homeless, basically, because I couldn't afford, not even on a minimum wage job, I couldn't afford I couldn't afford to live. And so anyways, didn't got the kids. That was my ex-husband. And he had a house. He was doing all right, I guess. And I was falling apart. I remember asking my sister if I could come and stay with her, and she let me. And when I moved in with her, I ended up getting this job at Target, where it was an overnight job, and we did put the shelves together, made the displays, and put the stuff on the shelves. I was one of those people. I don't know what you'd call them, but I put the displays together, and I was still drinking at the time. I'd take off lunch breaks and go drink, and I'd drink. It didn't matter. I drank and drove. I was just a mess. And, yeah, I was just drinking all the time. And, there had been this man in the UK named Mike. And, I had been talking to him, actually, because I had been talking to him since we had our house in Kingwood. We used to play this game named Spades on the Zone. Zone.com it used to be. And my ex-husband taught me how to play spades, and so I'd go in there and I'd play spades and stuff. And I didn't know this man, but I don't know, there was just some sort of like connection there. And often, I think I played spades with him like 10 years. And off and on. And one day, this isn't the first time, he had asked me a couple of times, did I want to move to the UK with him? And before, I told him no. I'm trying to, I had my kids and stuff. I didn't want to leave my kids. But as I'm living with my sister, I felt like I was fixing to be homeless for real, like 1 foot in her door and 1 foot out. And he had come up online and asked me if I wanted to come to the UK, and I thought, well, damn, there's nothing stopping me now. I might as well try. I had a couple of thoughts. I thought, well, maybe I could go there and make a new home for my kids, and I could have my family back together, And then I thought, well, maybe I'd be closer to Joe, These were thoughts going through my mind at the time. And so Mike arranged, in fact, Mike was at my divorce, my final divorce hearing on October 24th. Mike was sitting outside the courthouse when I was getting my divorce. And so, yeah, he came in for a week for my divorce, and then I flew back to the UK with him. And I thought this might be a good chance for me to have a new start at life and have a home, like I said. And, yeah, so I flew off. I ended up, saying goodbye to my kids, and then I flew off to the UK. And I stayed with Mike. He had a business called the Hot Spot. It was a fish and chip shop, which I ended up working at. Yeah. So, anyways, I guess I'll stop now because these videos get so long, then they're going to be hard to upload. So I'll just continue later.